There's something beautifully quiet about growing older. The world no longer rushes past like a train you're trying to catch. Days begin a little slower. You breathe deeper. You savor more. You begin to understand the weight of time, not as a burden, but as a companion. At 60, most people feel they've earned their peace. They've worked hard, raised families, paid their dues. The mirror shows wrinkles, sure, but also wisdom. Perhaps the knees ache a little more, or sleep doesn't come as easily. But overall, they feel fine. Healthy, even. Until one day they don't. But by then, something has already been living quietly inside them. A silent force. A shadow that grows without pain, without noise. It waits. It watches. And it never announces its presence. They are called silent diseases, and they are not rare. In fact, for many people past 60, they are already there. There's no cough, no fever, no bleeding or screaming, just little things. Fatigue that's blamed on age. Occasional dizziness that's brushed off. A little weight loss, a little forgetfulness, a little blur in the corner of the eye. It's nothing, they say. But the body remembers what the mind refuses to believe. Because inside the walls of aging skin, there are battles being fought in complete silence. Blood vessels stiffen. Sugar levels rise. Bones thin. Heartbeats lose rhythm. Organs work harder, trying to tell a story that no one is listening to. Not yet. Some people call it bad luck. Others call it nature. But in truth, it is neither. It is simply what happens when the alarms ring softly, too softly to wake us. By the time the body shouts, it's often too late. These silent diseases don't come crashing through the front door. They slip in through the cracks, undetected, unannounced, and mostly underestimated. But why are they so dangerous? And why do they seem to love the quiet comfort of a body over 60? This is not a warning designed to scare. It is a moment of clarity. A call to look inward and listen to what is whispering, not waiting for it to scream. Because what you don't feel can still hurt you. And sometimes, silence is not peace. It's a symptom. They are not rare. They are not exotic or new, or confined to medical journals with names too long to pronounce. In fact, they are often the most common illnesses of all, only masked, hidden, and ignored. Silent diseases are those that grow quietly. They do not scream for attention. They do not present in dramatic ways. They slip through the daily rhythm of life, becoming part of it, blending into the background. They are diseases that speak in whispers, subtle changes in blood pressure, gentle drops in energy, an unfamiliar tightness in the chest that fades before it can be feared. And they are dangerous precisely because of that silence. Think of them like rust on a bridge. At first, invisible, unthreatening, just a bit of discoloration beneath the paint. No noise, no collapse. Yet day by day, week by week, something is weakening. The structure is being hollowed out from within. And by the time cracks appear, the damage is already deep. Silent diseases operate on this principle. They don't steal your health in a single moment. They borrow it, slowly, steadily, while you're busy thinking of other things. Your grandchildren's birthdays. The next holiday. The plants that need watering. Life continues as usual. The disease is patient. They are often chronic, systemic, and without intervention, progressive. That means they don't go away on their own. They grow with you. Some of them alter how your heart beats, and you'll only know when the rhythm stumbles. Others slowly raise the sugar in your blood until your vision blurs, your kidneys weaken, or your toes go numb. Some silently stiffen your arteries until the pressure builds enough for a stroke. By the time most people realize something is wrong, the disease is no longer at the beginning. It has already unpacked, made itself at home, and changed the blueprint of your health. But how does this happen? How do these diseases sneak by unnoticed? The answer lies in the body's brilliance, and its burden. The human body is designed to adapt, to compensate, to protect you from pain as long as it can. When blood pressure rises, the arteries expand. When sugar levels spike, the pancreas works overtime. When vision narrows, the brain fills in the blanks. You continue living. Until one day, the systems can no longer keep up. And when they fail, they often fail hard. That is the cruel elegance of silent diseases. They thrive on inattention. And that's why, for those over 60, knowledge becomes more than power, it becomes protection. Because listening to your body doesn't always mean hearing it scream. Sometimes, it means learning to notice what has gone quiet. And sometimes, the only way to see what's coming is to look even when everything feels fine. There's something almost magical about reaching 60. It's a quiet milestone. Not loud like turning 21, not celebratory like retirement at 65. But it is a turning point, the place where the road of life begins to curve. Gently, almost imperceptibly, the body begins to change. Not in sudden, dramatic ways. There's no announcement, no warning bells. Just small shifts. The kind you can explain away. A little stiffness in the morning, just the cold. A harder time remembering names, a busy mind. More trips to the bathroom at night, just normal aging. But what is normal at 60? The truth is, many of the things we call normal aging are not just age. They are signals, indicators, early signs that systems are starting to tire, not because of failure, but because they've worked hard for decades. By the time you turn 60, your heart has already beaten more than 2 billion times. Your kidneys have filtered over 1 million gallons of blood. Your bones, once dense and unshakable, have quietly begun to lose calcium year after year. Your pancreas, your liver, your nervous system, they've all kept you alive through years of stress, sugar, and sleep loss. Now, they begin to whisper. And if you're not listening, you might miss the fact that 60 isn't just another birthday, it's a biological checkpoint. Muscle mass decreases. Metabolism slows. Hormones shift. Healing takes longer. And crucially, warning signs become quieter. A heart attack doesn't always begin with chest pain. Diabetes doesn't always start with thirst. Kidney disease doesn't begin with back pain. Often, they begin with nothing. At this age, your body is still capable. Still strong. But the margin for error has narrowed. What once was a small indulgence, extra salt, too much sitting, skipping checkups, can now tip the scale. Yet most people don't notice. Or if they do, they dismiss it. Because they feel fine. That's the most dangerous part. Silent diseases take advantage of this feeling. They settle in when attention drifts. They thrive in routines that go unquestioned. They're not in a rush, because they know that after 60, time is on their side. And so, 60 becomes not just a number, but a crossroads. One path leads to awareness, prevention, and vitality. The other, to slow decline hidden behind the mask of just getting older. The body still has resilience. But it needs help now. It needs you to notice. To ask questions. To take the small symptoms seriously. Because the earlier you act, the more power you have. At 60, you are still the driver. But the road ahead? It's winding. And what you can't see can still pull you off course. Hashtag 1. High blood pressure. The pressure you never feel asterisk asterisk. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't sting. It doesn't make you cough or limp or lose sleep. And that's precisely what makes it so dangerous. High blood pressure, known in the medical world as hypertension, is often called the silent killer. It quietly forces your heart to work harder, your arteries to become stiffer, your blood vessels to strain under a pressure you don't even feel. People live with it for years, unaware. Until one day, there's a stroke. A heart attack. Kidney failure. The damage was happening all along, but no one knew, not even the person it was happening to. A quick test at a clinic could reveal the truth. But many skip it. After all, they feel fine. Until they don't. Hashtag 2. Type 2 diabetes. The sugar that steals silently asterisk asterisk. It begins gently. You crave sweets more than usual. You feel thirsty, maybe more tired than normal. But nothing that raises alarms. Behind the scenes, your body is struggling to manage sugar. Insulin resistance builds. Glucose begins to damage nerves, eyes, blood vessels. By the time people notice, blurred vision, numb toes, wounds that heal slowly, the disease is well underway. In many cases, it's not the diabetes itself that brings suffering. It's what it slowly erodes: eyesight, mobility, organ function. And it never shouted. It whispered. Hashtag 3. Chronic kidney disease. The quiet collapse asterisk asterisk. Your kidneys are master filters, working day and night to keep your blood clean and your body balanced. But they are not dramatic organs. When they begin to fail, they do so in silence. There is no obvious pain in the early stages. No red flags waving. Just subtle shifts, puffier ankles, a little fatigue, perhaps frothy urine, if anyone is paying attention. Most people aren't. That's why chronic kidney disease can reach dangerous levels before it's ever diagnosed. By the time symptoms are obvious, the kidneys are already in crisis. #####4. Osteoporosis, the invisible fracture asterisk asterisk. You don't feel your bones thinning. There are no nerves inside bones to tell you they're weakening. One day, it might be a fall, or even just a sudden twist. And then, something breaks. A wrist, a hip, a spine. That's when people learn they've had osteoporosis for years. Especially after 60, when bones lose density faster, this disease is ruthless in its stealth. And women are particularly vulnerable. There are scans that can reveal the loss before it leads to tragedy, but again, only if someone looks. ####5. Colon cancer, the killer that hides in routine asterisk asterisk. It doesn't start with bleeding. It doesn't come with pain. In many cases, there are no early symptoms at all. Colon cancer begins as small polyps, growths in the lining of the intestine. They grow slowly, over years, sometimes decades. Left unchecked, they turn into tumors. By the time someone notices a change in bowel habits or sees blood, the disease may already be advanced. A colonoscopy, a single uncomfortable morning, can reveal the truth. But many skip it. The disease, meanwhile, waits patiently. ####6. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, the fat that hides asterisk asterisk. Most people associate liver disease with alcohol. But for millions, the real cause is sugar, processed food, and fat. The liver, over time, begins to store fat. It becomes inflamed. Scar tissue builds. But it doesn't hurt. There's no sensation, no warning cry. Eventually, it becomes cirrhosis, a condition once thought exclusive to heavy drinkers. By then, it may be too late. And yet, the whole time, the person felt healthy. Even energetic. The liver was losing the battle in complete silence. ####7. Alzheimer's disease, the theft of identity asterisk asterisk. This one doesn't begin with memory loss. It begins with confusion. Simple tasks becoming harder. A word that escapes the tongue. A name forgotten, then remembered, then forgotten again. People laugh it off. Just getting old, they say. But inside the brain, nerve cells are dying. Connections are fading. The architecture of thought is slowly unraveling. Alzheimer's is not a switch, it's a dimmer. And by the time the lights are low enough for others to notice, the damage has been spreading for years. ####8. Glaucoma, the sight that narrows quietly asterisk asterisk. You don't feel it coming. Your vision seems fine, until it isn't. Glaucoma doesn't blur the center. It takes the edges first. Your peripheral vision begins to close in like a tightening tunnel. But it happens so gradually, most people don't even realize it's happening. There's no pain, no redness, no sudden change. By the time you notice, the vision you've lost is gone forever. Regular eye exams can catch it early, but many assume their eyes are fine if they can still read the newspaper. The truth is, they might already be going blind, slowly. ####9. Atrial fibrillation, the rhythm that slips asterisk asterisk. Your heart has always known what to do. Beat after beat, it's been steady, reliable. But after 60, its rhythm can sometimes stumble. Not enough to cause pain. Not enough to feel strange. Just enough to change blood flow in subtle ways. This irregular rhythm, atrial fibrillation, can send tiny clots to the brain. A stroke may come suddenly, without explanation. Many people with AFib don't even know they have it. They feel a little fatigue, maybe some palpitations. And then one day, they can't speak or move. It's not about how the heart feels. It's about how it functions. And sometimes, only a trained ear, or a simple electrocardiogram, can hear the warning. Each of these diseases has one thing in common: silence. They ask for nothing. They don't demand treatment until it's too late. And they all thrive in the space between what you feel and what's actually happening inside. But silence is not safety. It is only the absence of noise. And after 60, that silence can become deadly, unless you learn to listen for what isn't being said. The body is a quiet genius. It learns. It adjusts. It absorbs pain, stress, hunger, fatigue, and adapts. It does not complain easily. It does not seek attention unless absolutely necessary. So when something begins to go wrong, when a system starts to falter or a process becomes unstable, it doesn't ring alarm bells right away. Instead, it works harder. It compensates. It protects you from discomfort, even at its own expense. And that's where the deception begins. Because at 60, most people expect some wear and tear. A little forgetfulness, normal. A bit of fatigue, just part of aging. Occasional dizziness, probably nothing. The body, meanwhile, is juggling a dozen problems at once, doing its best not to let you feel them. And yet, these small signals, barely noticeable, are not random. They are quiet conversations between your body and your future. But they're easy to ignore. Especially when the world tells you, you look good for your age, or just keep moving, you're doing fine. So you keep going. You keep walking, working, doing all the things that make life feel normal. And the body? It continues absorbing the strain. Until it can't. This is how silent diseases take hold. Not with loud symptoms, but with misplaced trust in how we feel. Because we've been taught that health is something we can sense. That if we're sick, we'll know. That pain is the messenger. That fatigue has to be dramatic. That vision problems come with flashing lights or darkness. But most of the time, the warning signs are subtle. A gentle flutter in the chest. A few pounds lost without trying. A slight confusion in a familiar grocery store. A bruise that lasts a little too long. And still we tell ourselves, it's nothing. Part of the reason is emotional. We don't want to believe something serious could be happening. We don't want to seem paranoid. We don't want to feel old. So we turn away from the mirror, ignore the numbers, skip the checkups. Because if we don't ask, we don't have to know. But the truth doesn't disappear when it's ignored. It simply grows. The danger of silent diseases lies not just in the diseases themselves, but in our willingness to dismiss the silence. And that's why understanding our bodies, really understanding them, means listening before the shouting starts. Watching before the collapse. Acting before we feel the need to. Because after 60, the body speaks in a different language. Not loud. Not urgent. Just quiet enough for us to miss. Unless we choose to hear it. They don't look dangerous. In fact, they often look like comfort. A soft armchair. A warm plate of food. A familiar routine. A day that feels easy. Predictable. Calm. But sometimes it's these very things, done day after day, that slowly open the door for disease. After 60, life tends to slow down. And that's natural. The pace no longer has to be rushed. The goals have shifted. But in this new rhythm, habits form. Quiet ones, unnoticed, and often unchallenged. Take sitting, for example. Hours spent in front of a TV, reading a newspaper, scrolling through a phone. The body was never meant to be still for so long. Muscles weaken. Circulation slows. Joints stiffen. And yet, it feels harmless. Or consider sleep, or the lack of it. Many older adults sleep less, wake often, or stay up late out of habit. But poor sleep affects hormone balance, memory, blood sugar, and immune health. Over time, the damage compounds. Then there's food, especially the kind that's fast, easy, and tasty. Packaged meals with hidden sodium. Sugary snacks that become a comfort. A little treat here and there, until they become daily rituals. It doesn't feel like much. It doesn't feel dangerous. But over time, these small choices become patterns. And those patterns write your future. Even hydration is often overlooked. A slight dryness in the mouth is ignored. The feeling of thirst becomes duller with age, and many simply forget to drink enough water. The result? Concentrated blood, sluggish kidneys, tired skin, foggy thinking. Then there's avoidance, not just of exercise, but of information. Avoiding doctor's appointments. Avoiding screenings. Avoiding scales and mirrors. Not because of laziness, but often fear. I feel fine becomes a shield. But the truth is, feeling fine is not a reliable indicator after 60. By then, the body is brilliant at masking imbalance. It's the habits, not the feelings, that matter. The same breakfast every day, loaded with hidden sugars. The same recliner hours before bedtime. The same excuse to skip the walk, because the weather's not perfect. These are not crimes. These are not failures. They are patterns. And patterns have power, especially when they're silent. But here's the good news. The same way habits can build disease, they can also build resilience. The body may be older, but it still listens. It still adapts. It still responds to change. What you do every day, the quiet, consistent choices, are far more powerful than any medicine you might one day need. Because prevention doesn't always look like action. Sometimes, it looks like stillness interrupted, comfort challenged, a routine rewritten, one small step at a time. There is a quiet strength in knowing. Not the kind of knowing that rushes in during emergencies, not the panic discoveries in the middle of the night, but the calm, clear kind of knowing that comes from checking before something breaks. And when it comes to silent diseases, knowing early is everything. Because the truth is simple. By the time you feel something, the disease is already ahead of you. But when you look for it, you have a chance to catch up. The tools exist. They are not mysterious, complicated machines hidden in hospitals. Many of them are simple, fast, even routine. A blood pressure cuff, wrapped around your arm for just seconds, can reveal a hidden storm inside your arteries. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't take long. But it can save your life. A blood test, drawn quietly in a small vial, can tell the story of your sugar, your kidneys, your liver. It can show the beginnings of a disease before it has a chance to damage anything. A colonoscopy, uncomfortable for a day, might reveal the polyp that could become cancer in 5 years. A bone density scan can detect invisible weakening, long before a fall brings it to light. An eye exam, done in silence, can detect glaucoma before vision narrows beyond return. A memory assessment, even just a few questions, might show subtle cognitive changes that deserve attention, not panic, just care. And none of these tests are painful. What is painful, though, is regret. Regret is the sound that echoes when people say, "If only we had checked earlier," or "I thought it was nothing." After 60, silence isn't safety, it's an invitation to look closer. But the problem is not just physical. It's emotional. Many avoid these tests not because they're hard, but because they're afraid. Afraid of what might be found. Afraid of being told something's wrong. But knowledge is not a burden. It's a form of power. When you know, you can act. When you don't, you wait. And waiting gives the disease a head start. Health after 60 is not just about treatment, it's about awareness. Not dramatic changes, but quiet check-ins. Not fear, but curiosity. Not obsessing over symptoms, but understanding that even when everything feels fine, it's still worth asking, what's really happening inside me? Because what you find might be the thing that changes everything. Or, what you don't find might give you peace for years to come. The body listens. Even after 60. Even after years of habits, routines, and small neglects. It still pays attention. And it still responds. This is the quiet miracle of aging. Our cells may be older, our joints may be slower, but change is never off the table. We can still rewrite our story, not with dramatic overhauls or impossible routines, but with small, repeated choices. Because the same way that silent diseases sneak in through subtle neglect, healing can begin through subtle attention. A short daily walk, perhaps just 15 minutes to start, begins to awaken everything. Blood moves faster. Joints loosen. The heart finds its rhythm. And the mind, so often cluttered by worry, finds stillness in motion. Real food, colorful and whole, starts to shift the internal balance. A little less salt. A little more green. Water in place of soda. Fiber in place of processed sugar. Not perfect, not overwhelming, just better. Sleep, too, becomes a medicine. Not through pills, but through ritual. Turning off screens earlier, dimming the lights, letting the body know it's time to rest. Deep, Uninterrupted sleep repairs more than we can ever see. And connection, the simple act of talking to a friend, calling family, sharing laughter, strengthens the brain in ways no supplement can. Loneliness is a disease of its own, and every human bond is a kind of protection. Then comes the choice we often overlook: routine checkups. Not because something feels wrong, but because things still feel right, and we want to keep it that way. No single day transforms a life, but each day becomes a vote. A vote for clarity, for awareness, for health not defined by perfection, but by intention. And there is no age limit on intention. The road behind may be long, but the road ahead is still open. And even if silent diseases have already begun their work, they are not always the end of the story. Many can be slowed, managed, even reversed, but only when you choose to act. Not out of fear, not out of guilt, but out of love, for your body, for your time, for the people who still need you here. Because sometimes the strongest medicine is not in a bottle. It's in a choice. One quiet decision at a time. His name was Martin. He was 72. Tall, warm, the kind of grandfather who never missed a soccer game, who brought cookies to every family gathering, who still did yard work because he liked the sweat. He laughed often, walked daily, and never once thought of himself as sick. He hadn't seen a doctor in 5 years. Not because he was careless, but because he felt fine. His back hurt now and then, but that was age. He forgot small things sometimes, but who didn't? He occasionally felt dizzy when standing too fast, but he just laughed it off. Then one morning, he didn't get out of bed. His wife found him sitting at the edge of the mattress, unable to speak. His right arm hung limp. One side of his face was slack. The ambulance came fast, but not fast enough. The stroke had been massive. And the truth behind it, revealed slowly over the days that followed, was harder to accept than the event itself. Martin had untreated high blood pressure, for years. He also had undiagnosed atrial fibrillation, an irregular heart rhythm that had quietly been sending tiny clots through his body. His blood sugar levels were elevated too. Not quite diabetes, but close enough that damage had already begun. He had all 3 risk factors, and never knew. Because there was no pain. No warning. Just little signs he had dismissed, like static in the background of a busy life. The recovery was long, hard, humbling. He never fully regained the ability to speak clearly. His balance never returned to normal. He couldn't hold his grandchildren the way he used to. He smiled less. He tried his best. But something had changed, not just in his body, but in his spirit. And the hardest part? It didn't have to happen that way. With a checkup, with a simple blood test, with a few questions to a doctor, with a monitor on his arm for just 30 seconds. All of it could have been found, asterisk before asterisk the stroke. Martin's story is not rare. It is not dramatic because of what happened. It's dramatic because of how easily it could have been prevented. That's the tragedy of silent diseases. They don't take you in a moment. They wait for your silence to match theirs. And when you give it to them, they move in completely. Martin's family now speaks for him. They speak loudly, to anyone who'll listen. Because sometimes the most powerful health message comes not from a doctor, but from a life forever changed by what was never supposed to happen. Silence can be beautiful. It can mean calm, rest, wisdom. The kind of stillness that only comes with age, earned, lived, felt deeply. But not all silence is peace. Some silence is delay. Some is denial. And some, though unspoken, carries a heavy cost. Silent diseases are not villains hiding in the shadows. They are the result of time, biology, and the simple human tendency to trust what we can see and ignore what we can't. After 60, the body does not always raise its voice. But that doesn't mean it has nothing to say. It speaks through numbers, through patterns, through subtle changes that feel too small to matter, until they do. And so, the greatest act of love you can offer yourself after 60 is not to fear sickness, but to be curious, to look, to ask, to check, to care, even when it feels unnecessary. Because health is no longer about chasing perfection. It's about protecting presence. Being there for your family. Laughing without limitation. Walking without pain. Remembering the names of those you love. Waking up every morning not just alive, but aware. You don't need to live in fear. You don't need to obsess over every small symptom. You just need to listen. Silence can be gentle, yes. But when it comes to your health, it is never neutral. There is no glory in waiting until something breaks. There is no strength in ignoring what needs attention. True strength is quiet, like the diseases we fear. But unlike them, it leads to clarity, not crisis. So today, choose to listen, not to fear but to wisdom. Let your peace come not from the absence of symptoms, but from the presence of knowledge. Because silence is only golden when it's not hiding the truth.